The challenges and risks faced by the Sudanese refugees in Chad, especially women and children, who are living in makeshift camps with limited services, food, water, shelter, and medical assistance. The Sudanese refugees in Chad have fled from the violence and unrest in their homeland, where armed groups have burned villages, killed civilians, and disrupted humanitarian access. More than 60,000 refugees have crossed the border into Chad since February 2020, joining the 400,000 Sudanese refugees who were already living in the country. Most of them come from Darfur, a region that was devastated by a war 20 years ago. The refugees face many challenges and risks in their new host country, which is also struggling with poverty, hunger, and insecurity. The refugees are living in makeshift camps near the border, where they lack basic services, food, water, shelter, and medical assistance. Many of them arrived with only a few belongings and have exhausted their food stocks. They depend on humanitarian aid from agencies like the World Food Programme, WFP, and the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, but the aid is insufficient and threatened by funding shortfalls. The refugees are also exposed to the harsh weather conditions of the desert region, where temperatures can reach 50 degrees Celsius during the day and drop below zero at night. The rainy season, which starts in June, will make the situation even worse, as it will cut off the roads and hamper the delivery of aid. The refugees will also face the risk of floods, diseases, and malnutrition. The most vulnerable among the refugees are women and children, who make up more than half of the population. They face specific challenges and risks related to their safety, health, and education. Women and girls are at risk of gender-based violence, such as rape, domestic abuse, and forced marriage, both inside and outside the camps. They also face difficulties accessing reproductive health services and sanitary products. Children are at risk of being recruited by armed groups, both Chadian and Sudanese, who operate near the border. They also face difficulties accessing education, as there are not enough schools, teachers, or materials in the camps. Many children have missed years of schooling due to the conflict in Sudan. The Sudanese refugees in Chad need urgent and sustained support from the international community to meet their basic needs and protect their rights. They also need durable solutions to end their protracted displacement, such as voluntary repatriation to Sudan when conditions allow, local integration in Chad, or resettlement to third countries. The urgent need for international support and humanitarian aid to relocate the refugees to safer locations before the rainy season starts and to prevent a major humanitarian disaster in the region. Since the outbreak of violence in Sudan last month, more than 80,000 people have fled their homes and crossed the border into Chad, seeking refuge from the conflict. Most of them are women and children who have left everything behind and are now living in dire conditions in makeshift camps along the border. They lack food, water, shelter, sanitation, and health care. They are also exposed to the risks of snake and scorpion bites, as well as diseases such as malaria. The situation is expected to worsen in the coming weeks, as the rainy season approaches. The rains will make the roads impassable and cut off access to many of the remote areas where the refugees are located. The camps will also become flooded and muddy, increasing the risk of waterborne diseases and making life even more miserable for the refugees. The international community and humanitarian agencies are racing against time to relocate as many refugees as possible to safer locations before the rains start. They are also trying to provide them with basic assistance such as food, water, tents, blankets, mosquito nets, and medical supplies. However, they face many challenges, such as insecurity, lack of funding, logistical constraints, and limited capacity. The refugees urgently need more support and solidarity from the world. They need more resources and attention to address their immediate needs and protect their dignity and rights. They also need a lasting solution to end the conflict in Sudan and enable them to return home safely and voluntarily. If no action is taken soon, they will face a major humanitarian disaster in this region.